I'm going to start with animating the eye. So to make this a little easier on our eyes, because let's face it, that is a lot of parameters that we're just seeing all at once here, right? I'm just going to go ahead and make a new folder like this. There's a little folder icon there, just click it, double click on it, and I'm just going to call them parameters. And what I'm going to do is go and click on angle X, go all the way down the list, hold shift and click on hair move back, and I'm just going to drag all of these parameters into this folder here. And we can drop it down and we can literally highlight whatever parameters we want to work on currently right now. So in this case, what I want to do is highlight eye right open. And that's honestly, I think, the only one we need to work on. We don't have an eye white, so we don't have to create an eyeball X and Y. We don't have an eyebrow either, so we don't have to worry about eyebrow parameters right now. Like, we don't really need that many. Really all we need is eye right open because of the nature of the kind of eye it is. Now, what I want to do though is actually create a couple of physics parameters from scratch. Let's click on eye right open, so we're outside of the folders here, and I'm going to create my own parameters for the eye physics. I'll stick with 2 for now. I'm going to go on new parameter here at the bottom, and I'm going to call this eye physics 1. I'm going to change this to 1.0, and I'm going to make this 1.0. Now bear in mind this says minus on the end of it there, on, well, the beginning of the number. Make sure there is a minus. And now we have a new parameter called eye physics 1. If you wanted to duplicate the values of a parameter, it won't copy though the keyforms that you have set, though, which I will go into what keyforms are. If you want to duplicate a value of a parameter here, you just go on right click on the parameter itself and then replicate parameters. Now it will say eye physics 1 still, so I'd still go ahead and call it eye physics 2 so that we know exactly which is which. I'm going to stick with that for now, and if we need more we can just do the same thing. So now we have the main base parameters that we want to work with. For specifically, I'm going to be working on this eye here, the left one. So if you wanted to, you could very quickly just click on the eye itself and you can find all of the pieces just pop up here, or you can just navigate it through the parts window or the deformer window. You can find this eye, no problem at all. Now, the method that I'm using for the eyelid is actually still a little bit different to the usual way you would create a blink. I'm actually going to unhide the eyelid because currently it is hidden. So we can actually see the actual line for the blink here. Now, I'm just going to move it a little bit to the left here so it's a little bit central because it looked a little bit out. We have a whole bunch of different things going on here for the eye, mostly because we wanted to add the physics. What I need to do is make another deformer. No, shock horror. So you just go on sparkle here, you can then hold shift and click to base eye here to highlight everything, and then go on create warp deformer and create a new warp deformer for the eye. We could call this iris at this point, to call it something different, and create. So we just go on eye right open parameter here, and we create 2 keyforms. Now on the far left keyform, that's when our eye is closed. On the far right keyform here, that's when our eyes are open. It's very confusing because I always get those 2 muddled up. So this side has to be closed while this side is meant to be fully open. We need to just go on this far left keyform here. And all I'm going to do is just squish the eye gradually into the middle like this. Whoops. Using the red bounding box specifically, we're not actually using the deformer to do this, we're just very basically squishing the eye down like this. So we don't see it anymore. You could maybe even bring it out a little bit to the side like this. And as you can see, we've got a bit of motion there. Of course though, the eyelid here is not meant to be there when the eye is fully open. So we're just going to click on the eyelid part here And we're going to create two keyforms for the eye right open parameter. And with the right keyform selected, we're just going to bring the opacity down to 0, like this. So we now have something going on here, obviously, but it's still fading in a bit too soon. So what we're going to do is make sure we still have the eyelid selected here. And we're going to just drag, because you see how you can drag a little red ball across the line here. From the far right keyform here, I just want to snap, like kind of very quickly. I just want to feel for like the next keyform that can be added right after the far right keyform. So in this case, we've got the red ball that's just come out from the green ball there. And we have a little dialog box here now. So we're going to add one single keyform using this button here. Click a couple of times if it doesn't work, because I don't know why it does that. Sometimes you need to encourage it, I suppose. Now we're going to do it on this side here too. So we're just going to go to the far left keyform, feel for the next potential keyform outside of that green ball. And then we're going to create another keyform as well with the eyelid, and we're going to bring the opacity down to 0. Now, as you can see, we've now created a very snappy motion with the eye. Every time that you blink, it's going to look like that. Now that we've done that though, we're going to look into the eye physics now. So this is actually something a little different to the previous beginner's tutorial. I've never done like eye physics in the beginner's tutorial before. There's going to be a few elements here that will have to be put into their own parameters for the eye physics here, as well as needing deformers. So we're going to create deformers for each one of these eye elements. So we're going to call this sparkle. It's like the layer itself. I'm going to call this one pupil, like this, if I can spell it. Create, and then highlight. Usual way of doing it, which is create warp deformer at the top of the screen. And then we got lower eye. And then that's it really. We've got every single piece into each deformer. Now, of course, I don't want to touch on the base eye because technically that we've already worked with it. We don't need to do anything more with it. But what we do need to do is create a sense of bounce and physics to the actual eye itself. When the eye is open, you start seeing the jiggle. We're just going to highlight specifically the pupil, the highlight, and the lower eye here. So just highlight those deformers, and we're going to create 3 keyforms. Now this is actually kind of important because it defaults to the middle. You need that middle keyform for it to default back to original position. In this case, we're just going to highlight the pupil for this, and we're just going to play around with the sizing here really. So for the far left keyform, we can bring the eye to be smaller, like the pupil here to be a bit smaller, like that. And it will default back to normal here. And we could actually go so far as to make this a bit larger as well. So also, if you want to make sure that your piece is being uniformly resized in the sense so it's not kind of deforming like this, all you have to do is just hold down shift and it will make it uniformly big for you. So effectively we have created from the default position here a bigger pupil and a smaller pupil. So we've got like a bit of a bounce effect going on. Same goes for the highlight as well. We're going to make this smaller on the far left. And in fact, we could vary it up a little bit. We could actually make this bigger if we wanted to, but I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to go ahead and make this a little smaller. And then I'm going to make this a little bigger. Like that. Now it may look a little bit off, so you may have to edit it a little bit. It might be that I need to bring this up a little more. And maybe bring this down. Yeah, I mean that can still work, it's fine. So we've got a little bit of a pulsing kind of animation going on with the eye here. Now with the lower eye here, I was thinking of, as these are going down, I'm going to also squish it down like this, but make it wider on the sides. Like that. And then as they get bigger, I'm just going to bring this up like that. Maybe even make it thinner. So we've got some very exaggerated sort of bouncing movement going on with the eye. Just something to try, obviously. Like, this may not be the kind of style you're looking for, but, you know, play around with it, see what you think. Might actually bring this up a little bit because it is overlapping the eye a bit too much. So we'll do that. And now we're left with the sparkle, and what I'm going to do for the sparkle is the same thing. Click on the sparkle deformer, and we're just going to create 3 keyforms. And I'm going to bring the sparkle of the eye down for the far left keyform, and I'm going to bring the sparkle up for the far right keyform. So there's a bit of an up and down motion. So we've got some separate parameters going on with separate kinds of motion. You could even give it a slight rotation if you wanted to as well, technically. Like, you could kind of like rotate it a little bit like that. And then maybe have it rotate to the right like that too. We've got like a little bit of a rotation. Because technically it's not too bad to do that since it's so subtle. You don't always need to have a rotation deformer to do that. But generally speaking, it all defaults to the middle keyform here. And in fact, looking at that pupil, I might actually, when it gets smaller like this, I might actually bring it down a little bit, like that. I feel like it might actually look a bit better here, something like that. So let's see what it looks like then when we start applying these physics. We're going to go into modeling at the top here, as the software. And we're going to go on Open Physics Scene Blending Settings. And what we're going to do is add a physics setting. So we're going to call this iPhysics. You don't actually have to put an input preset here, but maybe try and put in a physics model preset instead, just to kind of give us a bit of an idea. Because what we need to do is add our own inputs here, basically. So for us, it will be the eye right open. So we want to make sure the effectiveness is, I don't know, 100% at the minute. Now we need to add the actual output settings. Just locate the physics you have here. Tick them, so iPhysics 1 and 2. Click on them. And as you can see, you just saw there was some movement going on. When the eye opens and closes, you can see there's a bit of a physics going on. Like, you can actually reflect the motion of, say, iPhysics 2 here, which could be interesting because it means that it will kind of do an opposite kind of effect. But it's very dependent on what you have set for the duration here and the reactionary times and such, so it's just about playing around with those settings and seeing how you feel about it. You can see the pendulum as well reacting to what you change. But that's kind of the general premise of making these sort of eyes. It's just on the basis of the eye blink that you've set as an input, basically. You can even lower the effectiveness to lower the effectiveness of the actual physics as well, so you can make it subtler. But yeah, at the minute, that is your basic eye blink kind of set up for a bit of physics. You can increase the duration as well so that it lasts longer in the settings here. even be slower as well. You got like things like shaking as well. It's just, like I say, just play around with the settings a little bit, and on top of it, if you happen to have more parameters, you definitely have more control of timing, because at the minute I did put the eye physics for, like, I put the two eye physics in together, so the timing is going to be exactly the same as each other. The only thing you can do is just reflect the motion a little bit so that maybe the motion will be different. In fact, I don't see much of a difference. Like I say, you can make another preset, so I think I may as well just show you how to do that. All you have to do is just go on add again, and you can call this iPhysics again, iPhysics 2. Set it to how long or something, and you've got a new set of inputs you can add. Ideally, if what I need to do here is maybe actually disable this, so I think I'll just delete that one if I can. Yeah, there we go. So at the minute, we've only got the actual pupil and the highlight and the under eye moving right now. So if we go back into iPhysics 2 with the new one we just created, add the input for iWrite open again, and you can go on output settings, add the second iPhysics parameter, make sure the effectiveness is on 100 so it works, and you can see that there's actually already a timing difference going on with the sparkle effect. Like there's a slight delay even on the sparkle, and I kind of like that actually, because it was kind of what I was hoping for, was a little bit of a delay of the bounce of the sparkle. But you can really try out lots of things with this one, in a sense, like make it more exaggerated and make it bouncy like that. That might be a little too bouncy for my liking though, funny enough, but it's really up to you what you want to do with the sparkle effect in this case, but I'm just trying to show you what the possible outcomes could be for this one. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this eye. Honestly, if I could, I might maybe vary up the highlight so it had maybe a similar sort of timing almost, maybe to the highlight, possibly the little sparkle, but I think the sparkle probably needs its own movement really. But that's an example of what you can do with an eye to give it like some slight motion. I mean, generally speaking, if you wanted to, you could make the actual base eye move with the physics as well, which I could go into just for the fun of it. To do that though, I would recommend at this point to create a new deformer for it. So with the base eye here, just make a new deformer and just call it, you could call it iris physics as well. Picking one of these two might work out still. I'd probably sooner pick the iPhysics one because of the timing of the sparkle one being so different. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight the iris physics deformer, create 3 keyforms, and as the eye is getting kind of, you know, the pupil's getting small and such, I think I'll bring the eye in like this. Maybe make it slightly taller as well, like that. I think subtle is definitely better here. And then I'm just going to bring it down again, so it's kind of like an opposite effect. We're just going to swish it down, bring the sides out a little bit, like that. We've got a little bit of this going on, basically. It's very, very subtle, but could work quite well with the physics. So we're going to have a look at the physics settings again and see how it looks, because we have the settings already set in place for these particular parameters. It should work just fine. So as you can see, the actual eye itself does have a bit of a wiggle to it now. And it's very subtle, like I say, but it does actually make it better, I think, because in a way it's giving it a sense of, along with everything else which is moving, it's just working, I think, together quite well. But it's not, you know, too jiggly that it's distracting. And there you go. That's the eye, I'd say, done pretty much, along with some physics. In fact, save, because I haven't saved. I think definitely worth saving your work. Don't do me and don't save your work. I'm going to call it the same name as my CMO file here. So I'm just going to make a new folder and I'm just going to call it Beginner's Tutorial 2023, like this. And locate it, because now it's disappeared. There it is. Double click it, like that. And I'm going to name it exactly the same, so I'm just going to get rid of what it says here, merged, and just go and save. It has to be the exact same name as your file, by the way. Otherwise, VTube Studio has a problem with it, just saying. So now it's saved in a new file, it's all safe. Okay, so now that we've done that, what we have to do is actually transfer everything that we've done to this previous eye to the other eye. Out of all of the things you could duplicate and, you know, transfer over the other way around and stuff like that, this is probably one of the things you should do with one of your models. Like, your eye is something that should blink at the same time, right? And there should be no kind of like difference at all going on with both eyes. At this point, you can treat this eye as a form of reference. Like, what I tend to do is bring the opacity all the way down to maybe about, I don't know, 18% or 20, so that it's barely noticeable, but you can see where the actual eye is meant to be. Because technically we're not going to use these eye bits, these eye pieces. You could actually get away with not having them separated at all for the eye, right? So basically we need to make sure that everything is dropped down. We can see literally every deformer and every piece that's been used for the left eye. We need to select left eye deformer, go all the way down to base eye here, hold shift and click. So you've literally highlighted everything we just done. So I'm gonna copy everything. Just go Control C. Now deselect from everything. I'm gonna make a new folder from up here and I'm gonna call it new eye. Right, click OK, like that. And I'm putting it outside because it makes it easy to see at this point. We can reposition it after. We're going to paste everything we just copied into this new folder. So just go Control V. And now we have a duplicate, basically, of everything. Because of the nature of this kind of eye, it's very simple. And if you're doing a normal with an actual proper, you know, anime eye and proper eyes, you would have to use the other more complicated method. But we don't really need to do that with this one because it's so simple. It's just a simple case of copying and pasting all of this into the new folder like we did. And I'm actually going to make a new deformer so that we know that this is eye right. So with the new left eye, right here, we're going to create a new deformer, and it actually already says it, new eye right. So just create it, and then have the eye open so we can actually see what's going on a little bit. Put it all to default as well, and we're just going to flip it around like this. Now I wish there was a way, however, of making it an exact flip, but so you have to kind of eyeball it a little bit. So like using the little guide that we've created for ourselves, we're just going to try and align it as much as we can with the other one. So it's exactly where it's supposed to be, like that. So that looks fine to me. So as you can see, we now have two blinkable eyes. In fact, you can close this eye and see, well, okay, this doesn't look too aligned, so let's just bring it down a little bit more like that. See how it looks. May need to take some readjustment, but you'll get there in the end with it and you'll feel happy with it. Like that. So technically we have an eye blink. And then if we were to go into the model physics settings here and zoom in, look at our eyes, we still got the same physics going on. like in the other eye. Because effectively all we've done is copied and pasted the eye settings and physics that we had in the previous one. Now of course we still have the shadow of the other eye, so what we're going to do now is delete this. We don't need these anymore, so just highlight all of these, including the folder in the parts window, go in the trash can, and then go on yes, because we don't need it anymore. So now we don't have the other eye anymore. And like I say, you can actually rename this now to eye right, or you can keep it the same. It's up to you. We now have a blinkable eye for the character, and eyes that have physics too. These good old little jelly physics that you see in the eyes, that you see a lot of. Like, obviously this is a very sort of simple kind of version of it, but this is a beginner's tutorial after all. I actually quite like the bounce of the eyes in that. I think it's quite fun. So hopefully you guys like it too. So the next thing we're going to move on to, since now we've done the blinking of the eyes, we're going to move on to the mouth. And we're going to learn how to make different kinds of mouth shapes, along with how to make your own meshes and vertices.